Okay, welcome. All right, hi guys. How's everybody doing? Biddle, how's it going?
Yeah, lovely. We're wrapping up our kickoff conference, getting into the swing of things, talking with all of our customers here. So doing great. Got
Yeah, it's
George on the
been
show. He's amazing.
George, how you doing?
Hi everyone, all good, all good. Nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Welcome back, welcome back. Yeah, it's sales time. It's fun, lots of training. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed watching some of the intro stuff. And then now we can talk to all of you guys. So it's always good to lighten our week up of being able to chat with each other. So today we're going to be talking about forecasting. So forecasting costs. So welcome everyone to the Keys to AWS Optimization, the show we share stories, concepts, and solutions to help you unlock your spend at AWS. Alex did that last week, and then it threw me so much. So I'm glad that I can redo my statement at the start. So yes, as I said, we were going to be talking about forecasting. So any questions, comments you have, please feel free to pop them in the chat. Our host today is me, Stephanie Gooch, and I'm a commercial architect at AWS. Been here almost, I think it's 1.5 years now. Feels like barely any time has passed. Bill, do you do your intro?
Yeah, Michael Biddle. I'm a principal financial architect here supporting worldwide public sector. I got my swag on today.
Nice.
I do actually work at AWS. It's been a running joke. Do I even work here? But here you go. Yeah, and just a quick shout out. We before we kind of dive into the show, we wanted to let everyone know that we have a lot of open roles here at AWS, helping support customers in their financial journey. About to plug a role into the chat here if anyone's interested for our commercial architect role within the optics team that Stephanie sits on. If you fancy yourself good with cloud economics, cloud finance, and solutions architecture, give us a shout, apply, or reach out to any of us on LinkedIn. So that's our quick shameless promo, but over to you, George.
Yeah. So my name is George. I am a business development manager from our FinOps team, so Cloud Financial Management, and I help customers from the advisory side to be optimal on their cloud journey, basically. So yeah, that is a
Nice.
quick sum up.
Yeah, that's quick. Yeah, you were on before, George, before. What were we talking about last time? It feels like ages ago.
Change management,
Change
which
management, that was it.
yeah,
Uh, yeah, time flies. The just so if you want to go back and have a look at George's last episode, check us out on YouTube, Keys to AWS Optimization. And if you're watching there on YouTube now, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you can keep up to date with all these episodes. So let's get into it. Forecasting. So George, do you want to go into the reason why we thought this was a good topic? You had a really good statement just before we started. What was the big red flag that well, not red flag, but big kind of highlighted that you were like, forecasting, that's what we should talk about?
No, so basically a report called the State of FinOps report of 2021 that was made to 804 people, and this accurates to around 30 billion of spend. So this people's companies show that one of their key challenges when they were speaking about FinOps and cloud financial management was how to accurately forecast. And so this meant that this presentation around this tool made it very relevant, right, to study this topic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the State of FinOps is a great kind of, if you have a little look up for the FinOps Foundation. I will check the link in the chat. And JR came on a couple of, just to segue back. I think when he came on last, he was talking about they were just doing it. So go back again, look at that episode, go and check out FinOps Foundation. Shout out to those guys.
Full circle.
So yeah. Full circle back. Everyone's bringing things back to it. So yeah, let's dive into it. So why is forecasting important? Do you want to tell us a bit about that, or the tool or the tools in general?
Yeah, so we're going to go on to a deep dive today in a demo of our tool called Amazon Forecast, very original name, right? And the textbook definition of it is fully managed services that uses statistical and machine learning algorithms to drive accurate forecasting. So that is the textbook definition. That is the standard for it. But now, why is this relevant, and why is this just beyond what you can do with Excel? You know, the drag and drop. How is it more than just a regular forecasting? So this tool, one, it can handle seasonality. So the first main thing is you can input the changes that you want it to have, or things that the tool should be aware of, and it will take that into consideration. Secondly, metadata is important for the tool, so it does take this into account. So your attributes that you are predicting are taken into account. Thirdly, and this one relates to the first one, is you can input external factors. So let's say, and we'll explore this afterwards with something that Beetle is gonna mention, but let's say you want to input even the weather or other factors that come into the picture, you are able to do that, right? And lastly, since this can grab information and relate it among itself on other predictions and find the common areas, you can do time series. You can handle time series that have no history. So the accuracy is less, but it does give you something. And so this are the main reasons why it is more than just a forecasting tool, right? And so that's why we're going to demo this tool. First of all, the main of it is that it doesn't require you to be a machine learning expert to deploy at all, which I am not. So I'm not a technical person from background, and I did deploy a machine learning model, which I feel very cool. I have to say, it's when you click on the buttons, it's but yeah,
And it works.
uh, and it works after some errors. But so that is the thing about this tool. It gives you very accurate forecasting that is allowing you to do all of this with those conditions, and you can do it even if you're not technical, right?
Mhm.
um, and so that is the core to why it is different. And on top of it, it does incur for spikes. Now, you've mentioned other tools that we have within Cost Explorer a forecasting feature. So our Cost Explorer does include one that is free, and
Yeah.
rings buzzing like, why should we pay for this one and not for the other one that is free?
Mhm.
Fair concern. Well, the other one, first of all, only goes back 12 months, so that's the max of spend that it can go. While Amazon Forecast, since you can connect it to your cost and usage report, it goes, well, as far as you want it to, as far as
Mhm.
you have the accounts. Secondly, you can choose the level of granularity you have, because our cost and usage report really has every single data point of every spend that you have done in AWS. So there's really no limit to what you can do there. And so if you compile this tool with a third of having external factors factor in, which I've mentioned previously, hopefully justifies the cost. That's
Yeah, yeah. Do you
yeah.
know how much it costs to deploy? Is there an estimate for forecast, or should
Yeah,
we just say go to forecasting pricing?
so there's the forecasting pricing, and it varies. What I can say is it takes into account the data that you import, right? The time it takes you to train the predictor, and we'll check what is a predictor in a short period of time, and then the actual generated forecast data points, right? And these three are the main things that impact the cost. But do bear in mind that the generated forecast data points are by far the ones that impact most the price. So with the others, we're speaking about cents or euros, and then the ones that you forecast, those are the ones that really make the
Right.
cost go higher. So the more granular we want it, if you want it hourly or minute or year, and the intervals you wanted, is what will end up picking up the price. But in the pricing page, you'll see how this applies to the actual, and it has examples as well, so you can see examples with
Mhm.
actual numbers.
So I wanted to jump back to what you said about some of the things that are really useful about using the forecast tool. And
Yep.
if you joined us, we're talking about AWS forecast. If you didn't get that from the amount of times we said forecast. So you mentioned seasonality and kind of adding in, I think you did your own kind of metadata kind of stuff. Before we do the demo, do you want to kind of set the scene about why this is important with cost, especially for things like seasonality and also the data you can put in?
So if you're listening to this and you understand at least 5 minutes of the conversation, then you have something in AWS, or at least you've heard about the name before, and you know that there are spikes to your productions, right? So let's say, let's use our own example,
Mhm.
because we created Amazon Forecast because we used it, quite simply. And basically, let's think we have Prime Day coming up, we have any other major event, and we see spikes in the usage, right? We see things coming about. And if you know this date, you can input it in the forecast. It can take into account this forecasting, right? And so that is something to have in mind as well. So
Mhm.
that is why it is important, because it just makes it, we are in an unpredictable stage. We work with companies that are constantly growing, and this just factors in their growth as well.
Mhm.
George, you talked about some of the differences between this and cost explore forecasting. What about, do you have any insights on differences between the Amazon QuickSight forecasting that's enabled, like with machine learning? I mean, as far as I know, real core difference is that one you can use without QuickSight, and you do a little bit of the transforming with the glue options on the front end with what you're about to show. Whereas QuickSight is more for kind of like plugging in a raw data set out the box and maybe some pre-built models that you can run on top of it.
That is precisely it. So it's more on the pre-stage that they differ. So whilst in Amazon Forecast, you can change it to adapt to whatever you want. In QuickSight, that's less flexibility in the input that you put in. So that is precisely the difference. On the post, they both have a visualization place that you can see it. So within Forecast, you can visualize the costs. You can still integrate it with QuickSight after. So that's an interesting thing if you do prefer that visualization as well, so they can work together. But the main difference is the one you've mentioned.
Tools on tools. That's right.
Tools on
Tools on
tools.
tools.
Tools on tools.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
We've had I'm just going to address, we have a question about competition in cloud infrastructure. Just to answer, we try and offer the best we can for our customers in terms of pricing and competitive rate and what we offer as a global service. But that this kind of show is more about focusing on how you optimize on AWS and what services you can do that. So that's kind of what we're going to focus on for this. So let's continue in. Is there anything you wanted to talk about a bit more before we do the demo? Is there any other subjects you wanted to cover to set the scene at all?
No, I think the rest I'll go as we go through the demo. Some questions will arise, some other comments will come through, and I'll just mention it across the demo, right? So,
cool.
setting the scene as I start to share the screen on what we're going to do today. Basically, we are going, as mentioned before, to screen visible.
It's coming up. It's just us. Mirror.
Here we are. The
Inception of data.
The endless loop. So, as explaining a bit the roadmap of what we're about to do. So, since we're going to do some forecasting on top of the Kerr, bear in mind that as long as you're not a startup that has just started and has very little customers and people involved, this means that your Kerr will be gigantic. It is,
and I wouldn't even, just to caveat that it might not even be startups. A lot of my customers are like, I literally set up a Kerr today with a customer. So even, and guys, if you're out there and you're like, what is this Kerr thing? I'll share a link in the chat. It's the cost and usage report. The link I've just put in is about how to forecast with it. But homework for today, always suggesting the first thing, go and set up your Kerr. It's a big suggestion. But sorry, continue, George.
No, that's a good comment. But basically the Kerr is just where a deposit of every single piece of information about every single spend that you had, right? So it is not easy or even impossible for Excel to digest it alone. And so you have to do some tampering with it before you actually work with forecasts. So do bear in mind that. So in order to do that, the first stage, and something I would like to share with you that we did, is go to AWS Glue Data Brew for some of this curation of the data. So we looked into the different fields that we wanted to select. So the ones that we actually wanted to show for this demonstration, we reduced it a bit by focusing on EC2. And so basically you just, the same way you query the data with other tools, that's what Glue Data Brew allows you to do. So to show you in pictures, so we don't have to go through all the querying and all the waiting time, we've basically transformed this. So every single line of every single spend across every single category. So as you can see, more than 5,000 rows of 127 columns to this. So we tried reducing it. We kept it to EC2 after applying all of this filtering. So you just query the data according to what you want to see afterwards, right? So important caveat. Once this is done, we go into S3 and we add on the file, the now changed file to S3. How to do this? You first need to create a bucket. This is relevant. You create a bucket. To create a bucket, one caveat to have here, and the only thing that is interesting to have in mind, and that is why I'm showing this stage of the process. When you create a bucket, you need to locate it in the same place, in the same region as your forecast is, because otherwise it won't work. So that's a small caveat that, there's a lot of places where this can give an error and you don't know where it is.
Yeah.
This can be one.
Bucket location is something that I've encountered to get that with Lambda functions as well. So make sure you do it in the right place.
Bucket location. And then Everything else for this one is not they're not relevant topics, and then you just create this. I've pre-created one, okay, so just to be ready and you don't have to wait with me for the entire thing to be done. And then to upload the file is as simple as drag and drop, so there's really not a lot to it.
Hmm.
Then we go into forecast, so the exciting piece. Forecast, as I've mentioned, is quite intuitive. Even a business person can do it. Nothing against business people, I'm on that side.
No, no offense to
uh,
business people. Don't
but
cancel us. We love business people.
but we can do this, and
Everyone can do this.
everyone can do this. And basically, the first step is to set up your data set, right? So, what does it mean to set up your data set? Is basically telling forecast where your data is and what the data is about. So, when you do put create data set group, you need to give it a name. It's really not important what name do you give it, and then you need to choose a domain. What is a domain? A domain is as simple as the data schema. It will choose a data schema that is appropriate for yours. So if you want to speak about things that will be more around retail or workforce or web traffic, this already has some templates of schemas
Oh,
that you can use. Yeah, it's quite interesting. In our case, we'll use custom because
okay.
uh, I wish I could say that for the curve there's a specific one, but the custom one is quite similar. The next stage, so let's say forecast test. Um, yeah, so this can happen. I'm sorry about that.
Oh, it's just a white space at the end. You can't have a space at the end. That's all.
All right. See? That's why we do it live. But what's relevant here to show is the next stage before creation is you need to define your data entries, and they need to be the same as in the curve file. So if the data is showing per minute, you need to put it per minute. If you grouped it per day, you need to put it per day. You need to give a name to your data set, and then here is where we see the schema builder. And here two two main things to call out. Three actually. It needs to have the same labels as the one you have on your on the top of your file. They need to be on the same order, and they need to follow the same format. So it's the tool cannot do it for you. And I know since we are I am European,
Yes.
our nomenclature is day, month, year, right? And so this can be not in the curve specifically, but you can have other files where this happens. And so do bear in mind this, even the hour part. So if the hour is there, and you don't have it in your file, it will give an error, right? And we're here to spot errors, and this is one to have in mind. So you do make it into the way that your curve file is, and then we pass into the import name. You just put it import name, you put the data location, and this basically we need to browse S3 and choose the one that, and this is the one we just created. It will locate it, it will search for the file, and you just need to choose it. And then we need to create an IAM role. IAM role is an identity and access management role, and this will basically give permission for your data set to go to S3 to fetch this data. Now, this is not another thing that you need to understand how to create, because Forecast does this for you. So
Nice.
when you, yeah, yeah, thanks for the assist. Because when you put create a new role, you just specify your S3 bucket, the one that you just created, and you put create role, and that's it. And once you put start, it will do this on its own. Now, this will take some time.
Hmm.
Around to me it looked less than 10 minutes, but the data set was also not big. And then once we do have the data set, this is the dashboard that we'll be able to see. So we'll be able to see holistically every step that we need to take, which is importing this data that we've just done, training your predictor, generating the forecasts, and then the insights, right? So once we do have this target data in, there are two other things that you can input, but these ones are optional, so you don't need these two
Right.
to go through. Item metadata is exactly as the name stands it. Related time series data is any other piece of information that you find relevant that can impact the data. Now we have had some questions around how much does it actually impact the data, and that actually, fun enough, it depends on its variation. So if you input a stable piece of data, so something that is growing at a stable rate, it won't have much of an impact in your target time series data. But
Right.
if you input something with variations, then yes, because then it will impact how the target data behaves. Okay.
George, just for context, since you're on how long it takes, right? You mentioned, if the small
Please.
data set as much as 10 minutes. I did this about 6 months ago with one of our large travel industry customers on 3 months of their CUR. It took about 24 hours to do the same process step that we just went through. So depending on how many gigabytes you're piping in there is definitely going to impact that outcome, just for disclosure.
Yeah.
But still
Thank you
pretty
for that.
quick. I mean, a day, right?
Yeah,
Go
yeah.
sleep, come back.
And as well, it doesn't, just to add on to that, it doesn't mean that you have to put your entire CUR in. I think that's where people do, like, everyone's like, I'll just put everything in. But in reality, maybe you only care about production, or maybe you only care about like a singular account, or maybe a group of accounts, or an owner, or an application, even just like a small application. You're just like, okay, I just want to track like maybe this one like 3-tier architecture. So don't forget, use your tagging, use your group bys, use the organization data collector module in the labs to get your account data and your tags in, so that you can filter out all this data so that you can not be as big. And also, if you want to try it, like I said, start small. And then if you're like, oh yeah, this really works, let's extend it and do it. But yeah, sorry, continue.
No, and on the trying piece, there is a free tier, right? Something that is
nice.
relevant to say. Yeah, that is a free tier. And just it's 2 months free tier. You have a limited amount that you can use for a month, but it's quite plenty for even a demo. Use it and abuse it. It is interesting one. So now on the predictor. So now what is the predictor is what is going to look into your data and extract the things that will make it a forecast, right? So let's train a new predictor and take it almost until the end. Here they need to match. So the name, just pick a name without white spaces. Then you need to put your forecast frequency. It needs to follow the same. And this is the horizon. So how much do you actually want to look into the future?
Right.
Quick heads up here, an interesting thing. Our accuracy usually works within 30 to 40% of the previous data that you've had. So, just follow that logic. So if you've inputted a year, have in mind that the most accurate piece will be around 3 to 4 months, right? So have this in mind when you're trying to look into. It's always a data that you can update, but this is a question that we also get a lot, and this is something to bear in mind. Then you need to define the dimensions. This is really more for this will choose the default one, the one we had, which is fine, which is the item IDs, and then the quantiles. I'm also not going to mess in this, but for you to know, basically what this is a statistical thing that we add on top of the forecast, which is we say that 90% with 90% certainty that your value will not be higher than forecast quantile 3, and your and forecast quantile 1 means your value will not be lower than this number, right? So we just basically set the benchmarks. You can mess with it. One thing to bear in mind: this, and this are the things that impact the price the most.
Right.
So this is an interesting one. Now
Okay.
you need to define the predictor settings. Predictor settings, we have something for you that is incredible, especially because there's a lot to it when you try to read into algorithms. And basically what auto predictor does is just choose the best combination of algorithms for each time series for your data set. You could look into it more. There are specific algorithms, as you can see here, some for larger time series, some for smaller time series, but you do need to look into it, right? See, look, for example, simple with under, you have some for bigger. What the tool does already for you is just chooses the ones that are better for you and recommended.
Nice.
Yeah. Then
So
we
we've
have.
got just to bear in mind, we've only got 7 minutes left. So do you,
Yeah.
not to
I'll
not to
skip.
rush you,
No,
but just
I'll
gonna
skip.
say let's
Yeah.
show everyone the end result of this hard work.
Exactly. So then canceling this one. We have ours one. Another heads up just around what Beetle was saying. This does take a while as well. Beetle, do you have the number that it took you the predictor stage with the client that you've done?
Yeah, so I did it with another customer. It was a smaller set of data, and it's still about like 6 hours. I mean,
Yeah.
it can, a few hours at least, I would say.
This one was 2.5 as well. So this stage does take a while. Now,
Okay.
once you put the forecast, you just need to create the forecast, and here you just need to say it links to the predictor, and then we go into the query, right? And this is the end result, the end of it all. So you choose the forecast that you want, you choose the data that you want. Our data is quite recent, as you can see, the sample that I've used. So lucky you that have access to very recent fake data. But basically, what this gives me, let's say item ID is the name of the service, and what we've used here is EC2, right? So Amazon Elastic Compute. Well, and once we put get forecast,
Good moment. Oh,
there we go. And although this is a stable one, so very not as exciting as if it had a lot of variations, because the sample that we had, to not disclose any customer information, was quite a stable one, it is enough for you to see what is the end result of this tool, right? So the data that we've had, and then the prediction according to the gaps of the percentiles that we've shown, and a clear explanation of all of it. And that is it. As you can see, it takes a while to do it because of the waiting time, but not necessarily very um, difficult to do and deploy, right? You can test around with it, you can input different things, and you can use it for different purposes, right? Beetle, I don't know if you want to bring this up now, because I think it's a relevant topic to end.
Yeah, no, great demo. I think it was great for everyone to kind of see step by step how anyone can do this, whether you're a machine learning expert or not. Some other applications for this outside of just your cost and usage report, right? Within your organization, you can forecast quite a bit. I mean, like we use it internally with Amazon Retail to forecast sales demand. We've also used it with other customers like Puget Sound Energy. They actually use it to forecast the energy demand on the grid based on kilowatt hours, users on the grid, and time series data. I think kind of the key takeaway is we want you to be able to look at this as a way where you could spend hours and hours, even days or weeks training a machine learning model by hand with custom inputs, or maybe you could get something scrappy to come out with a small proof of concept out the box within as little as a few hours or a day using this at a very low price to help formulate your hypotheses.
yeah. And don't forget, like, we mentioned the Cost Explorer one, if you want to give that a go and try that. And then if you want a bit more of that granular input, a bit more control over those variables, then definitely check it out. I put a link and you just saw me filling it up as a guide to doing that. That's a blog. Just to wrap up, there were just two questions I saw in the chat that I just wanted to get to. So one was about seeing credits applied in accounts. I mean, I don't know about you, Biddle, but I would always jump in and say, try filtering on Cost Explorer and also look at the CUR to kind of identify and drill down and find those. And the queries, there are some queries in this library here that might be able to help you do that. But yeah, any other suggestions around looking at credits applied?
I mean, the easiest way, shortest amount of time without building some custom SQL query is to go to Cost Explorer and then under charge type, hit credits and then hit exclude only, and they'll be taken out of your numbers.
Perfect. And then the other one, any best practices around tagging architecture. So if you haven't been following the chat, we've been chatting about this in the chat as we've been going. There's a couple of really good links in there. We have done a session on tagging, so go back, check that out. And there is a nice little blog post I did about tagging, and also recommend there's some AWS information about tagging, and then the well-architected lab to collect your tags from account level. So I know that was just spitting a lot of data at you guys, but again, check it out. We'll have everything on YouTube. All right, 2 minutes. Any last kind of closing statements from you guys? George, any kind of call to actions you suggest people do? Or
So call to action is really play around with it. It's free. Really, you can learn a lot from it as well. It can get you excited also on understanding your data. And for any sort of cost information that you have or any sort of question, the teams are always happy to help with AWS. We have a ton of resources, as Steph has been here sharing. We have even events that are going on targeted at this. So please use and abuse of us. And yeah, we're happy to help.
Yeah, feel free to email if you want to find anything else, so we can always point you in the right direction at costoptimization.amazon.com. Biddle, anything from you before we finish up?
Just try and win something, right? All these tasks seem monumental until you tackle a piece of it. Honestly, that's what I felt when I started out years ago at the cloud. Just, kind of tackle little pieces in front of you and it starts to make more sense, like a little Sudoku or something you're putting together. But yeah.
Nice. And someone who just put, where can we find previous sessions? Check us out on YouTube. Keys to AWS optimization is where you can find everything. Next week, we are looking at Spot. Bill's going to be hosting that one. I am away. So sorry, guys. I hope you didn't miss me too much. But I'll be back in 2 weeks. But that is all from us. See you next week, or see you next week. And have a good day, everyone. Catch you later.
See you.